Hey guys, real quick today, I had a person come up to me and ask me what I thought was the strongest army in Warhammer Age of Sigmar right now. Now I'm going to put this with a few prefaces that one, not every sub-faction has a battle tome yet, and so those will drastically change what we've seen, anything like that. On top of that, as of the time of this recording, the only ones that actually have the new updated one since the General Handbook came out, with unique formations and point values and faction-specific items, artifacts, command abilities, things like that, are Sylvaneth, Iron Jaws, nope, they didn't come out yet. So Sylvaneth, Bone Splitters, Beast Claw Raiders. Okay, so those are it. So we're still getting a glimpse, but because of the General's Handbook, we have a lot of returning players, and their first question is, what's the best? I'm going to give you my opinion. My opinion is Flesh Eater Courts. And the reason I say that is, even though they don't have the new updated stuff and the new style, they bring something to the game that nobody else can do. See, when the General's Handbook dropped, a lot of people were really upset about summoning. I've talked about this in another video where you only get to attempt one spell per turn. This means if you fail, nobody else gets to try it. Included in that is summoning. Now, summoning models are paid for before the game in the list building phase. So you would say, if you're playing a 1,000-point game, build a 600-point list and say, I have 400 points in reserve, and then you draw from that reserve as you deploy units on the field later. So a lot of people who have highly competitive summoning armies were very upset because it kind of affects their strategy a lot, because they're not making new troops, they're just deploying them differently, essentially. But there's a caveat to that. The thing is that tax only happens if you summon a new unit, but you can regenerate a unit or add models to an existing unit if it's already on the field, which is kind of the entire shtick of Flesh Eater Courts. Now, with Flesh Eaters, it's a fairly large, because of the way they did the kit bashing sub-faction. And you get units. So say you buy a unit of 20 ghouls. You can turn one or two of those into a solo, which is, they call it a courtier, which is kind of a cool throwback to medieval court type things. And that guy has a chance to regenerate units on the unit that he's attached to, or you're near. Not really, they don't have attachments per se, but near. But you multiply that because it's not just the basic battle line troops of ghouls, it's also the heavy hitters of the Cryptors, it's the flying guys with Rend. They all have mechanisms to regenerate models to their unit. So you get this freight train of attrition. You swarm forward, your opponent can't tear through you, not nearly as easily as everyone's stat line would lead you to believe they could. And all you need to do to win a lot of these games is just have models on the table and be at the right place to claim objectives. Now, it's unique in the sense that, for example, Sylvaneth, we'll compare it to that because that was a really popular release. There are very few ways for Sylvaneth to move around the board outside of their teleportation thing with the trees. I mean, they can do the same summoning thing with branch raids and things like that, or dryads, I mean. But truthfully, they don't have that guy who can go 14 inches just cuz. But Flesh Eaters does. And so if you need to bolt somewhere to claim an objective, to tear through people and decrease the number of enemy models on an objective, if you need to all of a sudden have more guys than your opponent there, and you have the ability to regenerate guys so you can place them on the objective, so say you have one guy near the objective and then the hero phase comes around and you can place two more next to it, so now you have 3 total on the objective outweighing your opponent. Those things really add up. And here's the thing is, I truly believe that GW is going to update the previous battle tomes. Not even a big deal, just to be like, hey, here's some fluffy command abilities, here's some stuff like that, but all of that's irrelevant. Because the Flesh Eater Courts formations from their battle tome are in the General's Handbook, so you already have everything you need to start rocking those guys. And I really do believe they are the strongest army right now in AOS, because what don't they have? They have attrition and they have mobility. What more do you want? Not just that, but they have volume of attacks. Those ghouls can be ramped up really easy with just a few heroes near them. All of a sudden, you've got a 3-attack guy, a basic line trooper, who you know, because of death, he has a 5-up, and he has a 6-up ward save. Hitting like a freight train on the charge. And then every turn, he's getting more guys, and more guys, and more guys, and more guys, and it just keeps steamrolling. Now, you can't exceed the original number of models in your unit, so you're not just going to flood the table, essentially. But you are going to be able to prevent your opponent from clearing out zones. So if you swarm an objective with, say, 20 ghouls, with one of their leaders that regenerates them behind them, it's going to be tough to remove. It's going to require more effort to remove them than it will for you and your points cost to put them on the board. So that's a return on your investment, and it's really important. So then you have the hero on the Terrorgeist or the Dragon, whichever you prefer. I highly recommend the Terrorgeist, to be honest with you. I know that's not everyone agrees with that, but I've personally found it to be the most effective. And I can't stress enough that this army, it just doesn't die. It doesn't want to die, it's not going to die. It just keeps coming. Even the units that you would normally shoot forward as harassers, you know, the first turn they're going to take a lot of licks, you know, assuming they do their job. But then as the battle lines close, the guys who are regenerating them are coming forward as well. And I've had it happen more than once where all of a sudden, the unit that you went to throw away all of a sudden is gaining models, and your opponent has to deal with them. You can't not deal with them. So anyway, those are my thoughts about the possibly the strongest army in AOS right now. Again, this is subject to change as more battle tomes come out. I think a strong second, if you're really interested, is the Beastclaw Raiders. They just came out very recently, so there's a lot of nuance to them because of the low model count. However, they have really their only weakness is speed. They have great attacks and things like that, and a lot of the formations and just the destruction bonuses and things like that really ramp them where they want to be. And so I think that's definitely one to keep an eye on. It's going to be tricky to see how it develops, just because to play a Beastclaw Raider army is kind of heavy on a new player. You know, they're just expensive. The cav is just expensive, monetarily, not points wise. So it's going to be tough to see that really develop early, but I think later on we're going to see that that's going to come out as a huge contender. Anyway, so those are my top two essentially. So I'm Doug. Thanks for tuning in, and happy wargaming.